Welcome to the Hopenning, the place where hope is happening, with your hosts Fran Cadron and Marina Theron-Monnery. For more information about Fran and Marina, or to apply to be a guest on the show, please go to our website www.hopenning.com. The Hopenning is for informal purposes only and is based on the research of your hosts, Fran and Marina. They, as well as their guests, are not responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that may arise from this podcast, which is not intended to replace any professional medical advice or care by medical professionals you are currently utilizing.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hopenning. This is a place where hope is happening. And myself, Fran, and my beautiful co-host, Marina, are hosting again this week with a special guest. Our guest today is Amy Tsai. Amy comes to us from Toronto, Canada. Yay! And so Amy, after being over 20 years in the health and fitness industry, she transitioned into a new role as a Reset It specialist. This significant shift was inspired by the profound and lasting impact the Reset It program had in her own life. In Amy's previous work, in which she had dedicated herself to helping clients achieve sustainable weight loss and nurture a lasting sense of joy in their physical well-being, the introduction of the Reset It program to her practice revolutionized this approach, enabling quicker, easier, and more enduring results. So thank you, Amy, for joining us today. It's a privilege and an honor to have you here.
Well, thank you. It's a privilege and an honor for me as well. And what an introduction. Thank you.
Oh, you're
So,
welcome.
Amy, what is the background? What led you from where you were to where you are today and getting involved in this program?
Yes. Well, as a health and fitness coach, I was always looking for ways to help clients change their habits easier. Because as you know, changing habits is, no cakewalk, right? It can be really challenging. And for some people, it could take a whole entire lifetime. And so I have done lots of different things in search of ways to make it easier. Like I've done hypnosis, I've done past regression, I've had an energy healer for over 20 years. I became a Reiki 2 certified instructor or Reiki 2 certified practitioner. And I've even done meditations. I could lie there for hours on end. I think 4 hours is probably the longest I've done, which is a pretty darn long time, right? And although I felt better, I always felt like it was still there, especially if something happened that made me, you just revert back to your old self. Even though I still felt a little bit better, it just wasn't completely gone. And, I stumbled across this Reset It program about just over a year ago. And, the moment I met Mark Mathis, the creator of this tool, the first thing he said to me when I asked him what he did for a living, he goes, yeah, I teach people how to reset the things that don't belong to them. And I was like, oh, really? I knew exactly what he meant. He didn't have to say another word. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, I think the moment he said that, I had a feeling that this was it. So he's like, hey, would you be interested in doing the program? I'm like, yes. So when I did the program, which was very short in comparison to all the other stuff that I've done, I've done, energy healing for 20 years. My energy healer, him and I become really good friends. And I've sent a lot of people to him to help others as well. And when I did the program, I was like, wow, I literally felt this lift come off my shoulders. You feel it immediately. And that's when I realized, okay, you know what, this is it. And as a health and fitness coach online, I specialize with weight loss for women over 40 and loving their bodies forever. Because as you know, this is a real, dilemma for a lot of women. And anyways, what was it going with that? Oh yeah. So then what happened was, and then during that coaching program that I used to run 6-month programs, year-long programs. I had videos, I had workbooks, I had like, you name it, I had everything to help people to detach themselves from the diet culture and to teach them how to love themselves, from within inside. And it would literally take minimum 4 months to even break through. And that basically just killed my coaching program. And I was like, this is it. I don't need to have a coaching program anymore because it was that immediate.
Incredible.
Bonkers.
So you say reset the things that don't belong to them.
Mhm.
What does that mean? Is that like generational trauma, or what is that resetting?
Yeah, it's all of the above. So, in the health and fitness world, it would be, women trying to lose weight. So what are they doing? They're cutting calories. They're doing keto. They don't eat past 7. All these food rules that people would apply for themselves, these are things that don't belong to them. These are some random person that's out there, we'll call it the diet culture, telling people what to do. It doesn't belong to them. So a generational stuff for sure, because this is trauma by your grandparents or ancestral or whatever it may be. Those things don't belong to us either. Even women who don't love their bodies, and it doesn't matter what your size, weight, shape, or age. Predominantly, let's call it at least 70-80% of the people, it's actually higher. It's like 91% of women don't love their bodies, right? Because somebody out there is telling them you don't deserve to be happy in your body because you're not a size 2 and you're not 21 and you're not this and you're not that, and the list goes on and on. So these are things that don't belong to us. And and you can reset those. So in other words, you go through life picking up things along the way, like not feeling good enough, guilt and shame around food, imposter syndrome, things like that. These things don't belong to us.
So, Amy, what is the premise of this program, Reset It? For example, when Fran and I do rapid transformational therapy, and the premise of that is hypnosis.
Mhm.
And so tell me a little bit more about what can people expect inside the Reset It program?
Yes, that's a really good question. It's a technique that's not out there right now. It would resemble something like what's that a technique called, like EMDR, is it?
Oh, right, yeah.
The rapid eye movement?
Yeah, it would be similar to that, but it's not that. I've heard about the EMDR where it's a fairly long process to get through, and this is 2 90-minute sessions. And so it's literally conversational, and then we implement a very simple tool, and literally the reset happens. And for a lot of people, for some people, they don't even notice. They would really have to feel it out, and they'd have to almost walk away and kind of just feel what happens, because really it's really about being in the present moment is what it is, right? And it's really about a play between program state and present moment state that changes, that resets you. And
So
yeah.
what do you mean program state? Program state.
So everything, how we think, feel, and act or behave is all based around, for the most part, around our program state, how we've been programmed and conditioned in our life. So for example, like let's say diet culture. You go to a birthday party and there's a birthday cake there and you want a piece of cake. But somewhere in your brain is going, ooh, I really want that cake. But you know what? I'm going to pay for it after I eat that cake. It's going to go straight to my thighs. And you might even say it out loud to your friends. It's like, oh, you know what? I shouldn't be eating that. I'm going off diet. I'm on keto. It's past, it's too many calories, or whatever people are saying around that piece of cake that they want, right? That's a program that you've picked up along the way that doesn't belong to you, that's dictating how you think, feel, and behave about that piece of cake, whether you want it or not, right? Or things like, another good one is the term guilty pleasure. Guilty pleasure is a term that people use, and it's a no-win situation. You want the cake, but you feel bad for having it. But you don't want to feel bad for having it because you really want the cake. Right? So it's a no-win. You feel like you're in jail. It's like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So where does that leave you? It leaves you really frustrated that you can't enjoy a piece of cake without feeling guilt or shame around it. And that's a program that doesn't belong to you. it's diet culture that's out there. I mean, we all know what diet culture is, but you don't have to leave your house. Just pick up your phone and you see diet culture. Turn on your TV, you see diet culture. You pick up the boxes or the food that you have in your house about, calorie counting, diet culture. It's everywhere. It's almost unavoidable. And these are just programs and conditions that we pick up thinking like they make you believe like this cake is wrong. You shouldn't be eating it. And that if you do eat it, there's something wrong with it. You're weak and you're this and you're that, and you're not worthy of love for yourself and care or loving care for your body. Right?
Well, and you'd also hear the story that's going on in your head, right? That if I don't eat that cake, then like the people around the table are going to have an idea about me if I don't eat the cake. But if I do eat the cake, then I'll have to run an extra 3 miles tomorrow.
Mm.
But then, and all the guilt and all the you're right, it's all a big, it's stories. And by the time we get to our age, we've collected a lot of stories. We've Oh my goodness, because everybody is telling you this is going to work better. This is going to work better. If this hasn't worked for you, that's because you didn't buy this program or this idea. And the marketing that we're everybody, like you said, whether it's on the box or whether it's on our screen or whether it pops up in our email or wherever it is, we're inundated with marketing. So there's really no safe place anymore.
There's no safe place. But you're absolutely right. You can equate the program's condition to the stories that we create in our minds, right? Maybe we didn't create them in our minds, but they're certainly playing in our minds. But what's created those stories is stuff that's outside of us, telling us, like you said, the marketing piece. Hey, don't eat this. Hey, this is only 20 calories. Hey, this is, you know what I mean? This is sugar-free. Hey, you shouldn't eat past 7 o'clock, right? And all of a sudden, like, hey, that's a good. And then your friend says, hey, you know what? I've been doing intermittent fasting and it works. You should do it too.
Yeah, the carnivore diet.
Carnivore diet.
Right?
So, I mean, let's stay on the subject of weight issues. Then, where is the balance in this, and what is the outcome for people? How do they then think about food and themselves when they went through this?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So I had a client, she was in her early 50s, struggling with her weight since the pandemic. And no matter what she did, the less she ate, the more weight she gained. And we've been told cut calories. It's calories. She realized it wasn't calories, but she couldn't help herself because everybody's telling her to intermittent fast and to go kill herself at the gym. And so she came to me and she's like, like I can't take this anymore. No matter what I do, I keep gaining weight. So to make a long story short, we did some resetting and she would text me. She texted me, went to the grocery store. She's like, oh my God, the craziest thing just happened. I went to the grocery store and all I wanted was fruits and vegetables, like more fresh produce, because she knew that it made her feel good. Like we all know how to eat. We all know that we feel better when we eat more fruits and vegetables. But however, it's not what happens when you walk in the store, right? So she texts, she goes, oh my goodness, I just went to the store and all I wanted was fruit and vegetables. And I actually went to the fruits and vegetables section and I just bought more fruits and veggies. And I didn't find myself shoulding. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. I shouldn't be eating this. I shouldn't, like all that just went away. And she was in tune with herself enough that she noticed the difference. She literally texted me while she was at the grocery store. And she was like, wow, what a difference. Like there's no, it just seemed easy. She had more clarity and she had more freedom around. And the thing is, you just actually get to be you. You're more in the present moment. And that's what the reset it does. It allows you to be more present, because when we're in the grocery store and you're thinking about chips and and cake and all the stuff that we know we shouldn't be eating, whatever you think those things are, that's where the battle goes on. That you are in your programs and conditioned state. So now that she's more in the present moment, she walks in the store and goes, you know what? I feel really good when I eat this, when I eat more, I love cabbage. Okay, I don't know if anybody really loves cabbage, but she's like, I love cabbage, whatever the vegetable is. And she just goes off to that fruit and vegetable section and buys whatever it is that makes her happy in her body. And then that's it. There's not this like World War II going on in your head, right? The struggle between what I should be doing versus what I am doing.
Mhm. Yeah, it is like World War II, really,
The
because you've
battle of the
got
men.
these voices, so
Yeah,
many voices telling you about how it should be,
how is
rather
she?
than listening to the inner voice, the one that actually knows you the best, right? The one that knows your DNA and your cell and what you best respond to because of your own genetics. Like, I'm sure that Marina and you, Amy, have a different set of genetics handed down to us from our four people, generationally. That I mean, my people didn't eat a banana, right? I mean, I'm from Eastern Europe. There were no bananas in Eastern Europe, but there were fruits and vegetables and certain types of meats. That's what generationally came down, and yet suddenly within the last 3 generations, we're eating foods that genetically I wasn't programmed for.
Mhm.
So that's all interesting. The generational stuff is quite fascinating for me. Um, when we talked previously, you talked about quantum and how quantum interacts with what the Resetter program does. Can you talk a little bit about quantum?
Yeah, I mean, quantum is one of those words where, different people interpret it differently. I think really the important piece here is really about being in the present moment, right? And we've gotten so far away from ourselves that we don't trust our inner voice anymore because there's just so much data that's out there, right? I mean, I still have clients who are like, all they do is talk about data, and they're gonna do what the data is saying versus what your body needs and wants, right? So if, for example, if you got to go to the bathroom, no one's gonna tell you you don't need to go to the bathroom. Your body's telling you you got to go. Right? And this is very similar to that. So quantum is one of those things where how does it connect? It's really about like reconnecting with yourself, and that's what the present moment does. And we've become, like, for example, diet culture is a perfect example. People are doing what everybody else is doing, what everybody else is doing, what the data is doing, or what the stars are doing, or what whoever's saying what that's out there. And nobody's saying, hey, you know what? Like, if I eat more, if I eat, I really like apples, and that makes me feel good in my body, but it's got too much sugar in there. What about, you know what I mean? So now they're like going with the data versus what I want. And there's this battle going on between the data and what your body's telling you. And I'll tell you, as a health and fitness coach, and I've been doing this since I was in my early 20s, every person that I've talked to and I ask them, what do you think your body, like, what does your body need to lose weight or to be happy or to whatever their goal might be? 100% of the time, not even 99, 100% of the time, they know exactly what it is that their body needs. They're just not doing it because they've been confused by all this data that's out there, that they're not listening to themselves. And that data that's out there in the diet culture is confusing them and confusing them to the point where they don't trust themselves anymore. Trust their inner voice, trust their body to tell them what it is that they need. So, for example, this client that I told, another client, she's like, she came to me like just ill, like she's stomach is upset, she's exhausted, and she was just drinking too much coffee. She loves her cappuccino and espresso, so she was just drinking way too much. And but I said, and I remember meditating, and I could see what's actually going on in people's organs and whatnot. And I remember closing my eyes and just looking, thinking, like picturing her body in front of me, and her stomach was on fire. It was red, orange, and yellow. It was like literally flames coming out from her stomach. And I said to her, I said, hey, the colors that I saw coming from your stomach was like fire. It was like red, orange, and yellow. And she goes, well, that's interesting because that's exactly how my stomach feels. It's on fire. I go, really? I said, okay. I said, well, have you ever thought of like eating things like cucumber and celery? She goes, I love cucumber and celery. So she loves cucumber and celery because her body's telling her it needs to be cooled off. But for most people, they don't make that connection between what it is that they enjoy eating and what it is that their body requires. Right? So, yeah.
If you get a client who is morbidly obese and has type 2 diabetes, and when they do eat that apple, it's maybe because of a sugar addiction, how do you deal with that then?
Yeah, so the resetting would certainly help, would be a big start, because a lot of times when they have a sugar addiction or any kind of addiction, there's a story behind it, right? So the story would be things like sugar is comforting, it tastes good, it makes me feel good, I can't get enough of it. I love sugar in the form of candies is my favorite because it reminds me of childhood. When I first got given candy when I was 8 years old, and it was whatever it might have been. There's a whole story behind it, and that's the program that you have to reset to break the addiction, right? I mean, there's other stories around the addiction, but let's take just to simplify it for argument's sake. But around sugar, there's always a story. Same thing with alcohol. Same thing with whatever kind of addiction that might be. You know, for example, this woman who her stomach was on fire, she had a story around coffee, around espresso, and her story was, she liked the way she felt. It was energizing. It cleared her mind. She felt invincible. It made her feel like very cool to be at a cafe, you know, and she liked the taste of it. It was a ritual, you know, because coffee is very much a ritual. And what else was there? But you kind of get the idea of the story behind this woman's coffee addiction, I guess you could call it, right?
Yeah. And I'm thinking about what Marina and I do. Like
Mhm.
we take our clients right to a scene, an important scene that is coming up for them, which they may or may not have ever really fully known about, right? Sometimes the experience is so far back that they cannot remember the history of it. But when they're hypnotized, yeah, it comes up. And right, Marina, it's so often that kind of stuff. Like if it's a food addiction, um, very often it was they felt loved when their grandparents gave them that certain type of food, right?
Mhm.
The cake, the pie, the whatever it was. So they felt so loved. When they eat it now, there's could be a story about, I remember that when my grandparents used to give it to me, whether it's the sugary candy or whatever, I feel so much better. But it's the inner child that feels better. The adult, not so much, right? The adult is looking at it thinking, oh no, this is what's going to cause the spike, the sugar spike. I'm going to be feeling foggy. It's not going to be good for me. Um, our childhood, or even generationally. I think about children that were in residential schools in
Mhm.
Canada, and many of their descendants are so prone to diabetes,
Right.
and perhaps the only time in a residential school that they got candy would have been at Christmas, when there would have been extra gifts and everybody is happy, and that inner child from a long time ago. And now they're diabetic or prone to diabetes, and it is a serious thing in the First Nations culture, in their societies now. Diabetes is rampant,
Right.
and for many reasons, right? Their DNA
Well,
just
I'm
can't
wondering
handle it.
about that, Fran. Sorry to interject here because I've done a lot of research on this because I walked that cancer journey personally. And one of the biggest things to me in the modern culture is you can take somebody with the purest of diets and introduce him to the SAD diet, the standard American diet. And within no time, they all have diabetes. And to me, it's not because of genetics sometimes, but because of the crap we eat. We don't eat food anymore.
That's true.
I mean, what you can say anything about the ketogenic diet, but if you follow it, which I have done, and I've lost a lot of weight on it, it's promoting whole food. Now, you can go to Costco today, and there are products which I don't consider food, full of chemicals with a label that says keto on it. And to me, that is one of the biggest problems in society. People don't read labels, and people are lazy, and they eat all the time. Talk about conditioning. It's we don't need to eat all the time.
No, and yeah, that's yes. I mean, I could, yes, there are definitely, you're absolutely right. The labeling, the moment it says keto, oh, this is good, like, oh, it's low sugar, thinking that that is but you know what, I follow the medical medium. Are you familiar with medical
Yeah.
medium? He's got like an 8-book series, and
Yes.
and I've also I study nutrition and health as a hobby. I don't and those are the only books I read, and I study them. And as it turns out, diabetes is only a symptom of what is really going on. So when you're treating diabetes by lowering your sugar intake is really not the solution. In fact, it's actually your liver.
Then why is Dr. Jason Fung so successful with that?
I don't know who that is. I don't know.
Okay, read him up.
Okay,
read
but
up on him.
it's liver health is really where it's at. You take care of your liver, that's one of the ways. Definitely liver health is the way to go. And diabetes stems from a sluggish liver. So
It's interesting because I do think all the nonsense we eat today is definitely hard on the liver. It's all on all the organs. I definitely think that.
Very hard on the organs. I mean, you think about like you were saying, Fran, about the meat diet. What was the carnivore diet?
Carnivore.
But it's not to say that it wouldn't work. I'm not, we're just generalizing here. And if people have their and we're all into labeling stuff. Okay, you're doing, intermittent fasting. It's a label. If you're doing okay, right? Do you know what I mean? Or it's carnivore diet, or you're vegan or you're dairy free or whatever it might be. If you just make choices based on what it is that you need that day in that moment, that make you feel good in your body, you can't go wrong. So you could be vegan, you could be keto, you could be this, you could be all of the above.
Yeah,
why do we have to label
balance,
it?
right? Balance.
Yeah, it's just balance, right?
What you're saying, it kind of reminds me of like when your computer just won't work and it's like sluggish, and you've tried closing all the tabs, and you've done everything you can to make your computer work, and it's still sluggish. And someone says, "Did you try rebooting it?" And it's like, "Oh, right."
Except for that.
Oh, right. I forgot to do that. Yeah. So you hit the restart button and suddenly it's just working.
Like, what?
Right.
But when it comes to, like I said, I always ask them, like, so what do you think is your problem? What do you think you could do better with? How do you think you can feel better? I always try to ask them the questions so they just to kind of gauge like where they're at. And I would probably say, like I said, 100% of the time, people know what they should do. They're just not doing it for whatever the reasons may be. They're not trusting. At the end of the day, they're not trusting their own decision, thinking that there must be something out there that they don't know that is going to give me, that is the solution to my problem. But when in fact, we like I said, we become so disconnected from our bodies that we don't even know. And like we're literally waiting for a hammer to hit us over the head. That's the only time we actually hear our bodies. Right. But a lot of times it's just those little whispers. Your body's telling like, oh, you shouldn't do that. Or you know what? Or you need more of this, like it's these little things. And you are your own wisdom. And we have to learn to tune in versus tuning out. And that's what I did as a health and fitness coach. For a very long time. I don't really coach on health and fitness. I just do training, fitness training, and I do my resets. And then if they want to ask questions about, health and nutrition, no problem. I'm happy to talk about it. But that's really where I spend most of my time now. Because I feel like, when they ask when they start asking me questions, they're not asking themselves the questions. So I really want them to ask themselves the questions instead of asking me what I think. Because asking me what I think is just really about somebody else's programs and conditions and not tuning into what it is that they need for themselves in that moment.
So Amy, beside weight, what other things do you work with? What else do you help with?
Yeah, so now that I'm, doing the reset, this really is helpful for a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners, or really pretty much anybody who know that they are in their own way of their success, whatever that success may be. Whether you're trying to break the 6-7 figure, salary, and you know that you've got this, you can feel like you don't feel good enough, or you feel like that the imposter syndrome. Like, or, for a good example would be like, I really want to charge, for arguments, $100 an hour, but I'm only charging 60. I really want to charge $100 an hour, but I can't bring myself to charge $100 an hour. I feel like nobody would pay me that kind of money, that kind of thinking. That is also a program. That's also a story that you've created in your mind that doesn't exist, right? And when you break that and when you reset those, then you feel like those thoughts and feelings aren't in your way, so you can do the things you need in the moment that you need to do it in, and you get to be the person that you choose to be, not some story that somebody else created or you created, right? A lot of times it's a situation, like for me it was, when I came to Canada, I was in grade 2, and I was like the smallest, weakest kid in class in that gym class. I was literally last picked or second last picked from the moment I came to Canada till I graduated high school. It's like 10 years. And that certainly did a number on me, feeling not good enough, because it didn't matter who the teacher picked for team captains. I was picked last and second last. So in other words, everybody knew that I wasn't good at sports, right? Even I knew it. Everybody knew. It was obvious, right? And I didn't feel good enough. And it took me, like, my 20s showed up in my relationships. It showed up in my work. It showed up in how much money I could earn. It showed up everywhere. And all of a sudden like you can feel it. It really showed up when I went online to be a health and fitness coach. I was like, I had a real struggle trying to get clients. And I could feel that feeling of wanting to charge a certain amount of money, but I couldn't, and it showed up everywhere.
Super
I think that's a very, very general result in or occurrence in the self-help industry.
Yeah. I remember meditating there. All of a sudden, lying there. All of a sudden, I could see my whole life go past me and go, oh my goodness, I didn't feel good enough, and this is how that showed up. That. Like literally, I saw my whole timeline, and I'm lying there, and like I'm crying, going, wow. I saw my whole life in a movie in like 40 minutes or whatever it was that I was lying there.
Yeah.
And then it still didn't go away. It was just real. I was a point of realization. And then I was like, wow, that's why I am the way I am. That's why I'm who I am. And then when I came across that reset, I was like, I don't have to be that anymore. I don't have to carry that sandbag around. Right? It's time to unload. I've been carrying around for 40 years or whatever, 50, I'm 55 this year, however long that many years is, right? So I don't even want to say how long, but it's long enough. It's got to go. And also, it's not to say that those things didn't happen. It's not to say that I didn't get last picked. But when I talk about it, I don't feel like I want to cry. I don't feel like it feels like I'm just telling a story. Like I'm just reading a story from a book. I have like no attachment towards that. And that's what the reset it does, is a complete emotional detachment from it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. That's very much similar to what Marina and I do. Most often, our clients really do have like the tears, so many tears, right? And myself as well, when I went through hypnosis, the tears, the realization that comes upon you that, oh my goodness, I was just this sweet little kid. I was just this beautiful little girl. And I took that, whatever incident it was of bullying or whatever, rejection, and I took that forwards. How many years, like you're saying yourself, you take it forwards thinking, that's me now. Well, that
Mhm.
was just how this little girl felt at the age of 5 or whatever. That's not me anymore. Doesn't have to be me anymore.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, those stories we tell ourselves in our head, those interpretation that's sometimes so far from truth, but we build a lot of decisions and feelings on that.
Mhm. I mean, there's lots of modalities out there that work, like I've done them and I think they're all fantastic. I think, you know what, everybody's different and it's important to try different things until you feel like, okay, you know what? Okay, do I need to keep going or do I need to, do this, do that, try something else? I think that's, nobody's the same, right? And everybody has a different experience. And I think it's really important that I think it's important that I think it's great that there's so much out there and that you get to pick. Just like if you have an injury, not all the time that a chiropractor can work. Sometimes it's acupuncture, sometimes it's massage therapy, and maybe it's maybe it's physio, like it's just different with every injury, right? It's the same kind of thing.
Yeah. I like the way you put that for sure.
Different languages for different people.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, Amy, we're getting close to the end of our show. We always ask our guests, do you have a message of hope for our viewers?
Yeah, I just say yes, freedom is out there. If I could just keep searching, keep trying, never give up, never give up. It's that feeling of never giving up that is literally where the hope is. It's like just try different things. It's just like when you have an injury. Chiropractor isn't always going to work. Try physio, try, acupuncture, try different things and see what works for you.
Right. That's awesome. Awesome advice. And Amy, how can people get hold of you?
Yeah, so I can be found at resetit.ca. So it's reset-it.ca. There's so Mark Mathis, who has been doing this technique for almost 20 years now. He opened up his teacher training program. I call myself number 3. He now has 14 of us teaching this tool around the world. So we're all on that website. So you can reach out to me, or if you feel more comfortable with somebody else, by all means. But that's where you can find me and the rest of the Reset It team.
Amazing.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you today, Amy.
Thank you.
We all speak the same
Yes.
language, even if we we present ourselves differently and do different things with it. So I'm really grateful for hearing you speak. And it just clarifies for me again, we're all on the right track, right? We're doing things right.
Yes.
And we'll figure this out eventually. We'll all figure it out eventually. So thanks for being here, Amy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We hope you will join us next time when we bring you more hope on the Hopenning.
Thanks, Marina.